Good morning, everyone. Happy Easter. I'm doing this little recording now before we have our online service. And we're all set up for the service, as you can see, but I thought I'd just do a little recording of my talk for those who aren't able to join us for our online service. So I was going to read to you the Gospel reading for today. Matthew chapter 28, verses 1 to 10. After the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here, he is risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead. He is going ahead of you to Galilee, and there you will see him. Now I have told you." So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee, for there they will see me." This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Now, I've got something to show you. There. Do you like those? Not everyone likes a cream egg, but I do like a cream egg. This is a cream egg, and it reminds me. Cream eggs do remind me of Easter, because every Easter, since I've been at St Mark's, we've done an Easter egg hunt after the Sunday morning service, and the children go out and they have tokens to collect, and when they bring their tokens in, they're given a Cadbury's cream egg as a token, as a prize. Thankfully, they always get too many. There are too many eggs. Janet buys too many eggs each Easter, and so one of the perks of being the vicar is after the service, after the children have had all their Easter eggs and the cream eggs have been handed out, there's always one left for the vicar. So I've always thought about cream eggs, and it always does remind me a little bit about Easter. It's usually the first chocolate I have on Easter morning. But I've got a question for you. Can anyone touch it? Can you touch my egg? This particular one, can you touch it? No? Can you smell it? No. No. Oh. Can you eat it? Someone must be able to eat it. No? No, you can't eat it. You can't smell it, you can't touch it. So how do you know it's real? How do you know that's a real cream egg? Well, you might say, well, I can see it. Well, it could be a bit of cardboard. These days, with the power of technology, anything can look like anything else on a TV screen, on a camera. No, the reason you believe that and you know that this is a real cream egg is that I'm telling you, and you trust me. You trust that I'm telling you the truth. This really is a cream egg. We'll come back to that. This Holy Week and Easter has been a Holy Week and Easter unlike any other that I've experienced, and I think no one else has experienced either. In fact, York Minster said this week that it's the first time in 880 years that there has not been worship on that site. And there's amazing thought, really, and in churches around our country, some of them been there for over 1,000 years. This will be the first time that we haven't worshipped in our churches. And our churches, many of our churches, have been empty for this Easter for the first time since they were built. It seems very, very strange and very, very odd. I, for one, have found it really difficult. I found it very strange. I went out on Good Friday, I found myself outside the church. I was doing my walk around, and I went stood outside the church at 3 o'clock just to pray, just to be in a place where I thought I would normally be. Just have a sense of normality. But it is different, and it feels very strange. I think that first Easter was a very different Easter as well. As we look at the story of Mary, the two Marys going to the tomb, they'd gone to that tomb with a particular role to play. They were going to anoint the body of Jesus. They knew what they had to do. They knew what they were expecting. They went to the tomb expecting to find the body of Jesus, and they were going to anoint it. But when they get there, they find it is different. Everything has changed. Instead of finding the body of Jesus, they find an angel. Having experienced an earthquake, they discover the angel, dazzling white, standing in the tomb. The soldiers were so afraid that they appeared to be dead. The women are built with a bit more sterner stuff, so instead of being frightened in that way, they listen to what the angel has to say. The angel says to them, "This Jesus whom you look for is not here, for he has risen from the dead. Go and tell his friends, tell his disciples to find me and look for me out, even as far as Galilee and the wider world." Now, the interesting thing is that the women have not met Jesus at this point. They have not experienced the risen Christ. They haven't seen Jesus, and yet it says they were filled with great joy. They believe that Jesus is alive. They believe that Jesus is alive because they trust the words of the angel. Isn't it interesting, isn't it? As they go out having this faith within them, it is then they experience the risen Christ. On their way to the disciples, they meet Jesus on their way. And then later they will experience Jesus in the isolation of that upper room. They will experience Jesus on the beach in Galilee, on a boat on the lake. And they will experience Jesus on a road to Emmaus. In other words, when they believe in their hearts that Jesus is risen, when they trust the words that they are told, their eyes are opened and they see Jesus in all sorts of places, the most unlikely places. This is our Easter story. I do think that this Easter is different, and it's good in many ways. The other thing I did on Good Friday, one of the things I did on Good Friday was to ring Margaret Arnell, who's one of our readers at St Mark's Church, and she and I have been holding the Holy Week and Easter services together for the last 13 years, and it felt very odd not to be with Margaret on Good Friday, so I rang her. And we had a long chat. And one of the things that we talked about was the way things are so different. And one of the things that Margaret said, a very wise woman, she said, well, maybe it's good that it's different. Maybe it's good that we experience Easter in this way. Because when things are different, we discover new things and wonderful things about our faith. This Easter, the fact we're not worshipping in our churches doesn't alter the fact that Jesus is risen. It doesn't alter the way that we share the message of Jesus risen among us. He is still alive, and we trust those words that have been sent down to us and passed down from generation to generation to generation. We trust the scriptures that teach us that Jesus rose from the dead and is alive today. What we need to do is open our eyes and see Christ visible in the world around us. And the last few weeks, we've seen Christ risen in different ways. We've seen love born in our NHS and compassion showed with great courage and great strength. We've seen love shown in our care homes, in our streets, in our neighbourhoods, in our communities. We've seen it in all sorts of places. We see love in different ways. One of the great things about being a vicar is that I believe that we see the way the church has responded in the last few weeks. It's been wonderful, a real blessing. So this Easter, as you take your Easter eggs and you eat your Easter egg and enjoy the joy of chocolate, also take into your heart the truth that Jesus is alive and open your eyes to see the risen Christ in new and different ways. May you experience his love afresh in all sorts of ways. And may this Easter be a real blessing to you. And as you go out and see Christ in others, may others see the risen Christ in you. Amen, and happy Easter.